And content cadence. You can still play Monster Hunter while you're here, Barry. You know that, right? Next story will probably be very... The story that's coming up here is going to be very deep in the weeds for people who don't want it. But it has been requested, so you're going to get the long-form edition of... well, the Game Informer Super Subway incident. People have asked, so you're going to get the full story here. All right. Interestingly enough, before we begin the story, which begins in September of 2013. Actually, it's October 2013. But I actually applied to Game Informer the first time in 2011. I didn't get it though. I didn't get a response at all. Interesting. But then when Adam left, yeah, I lied, Double Barrel, so you're gonna have to get used to that. We're starting now. So, I was working at a college in northern Michigan. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you which one, but it was a premier college. Okay, sort of like a prestige college that you go to if you're like super smart or you excel in some other areas. A much smaller school than say like Michigan State where I went, but it was kind of an elite small school, and I did community and PR kind of stuff there, as well as you know, it was a lot of different roles in one, as you often get with that in academia. All right, renovating a lot of their online systems. It's a very good school, Great Rune. Anyway, I was there for 6 months, okay, before this occurred. It was a really nice place, by the way. It just wasn't a right fit for me. Exactly, you know? So when an opportunity to work at a game magazine proper came up, I took it. Now, obviously, the situation is that I applied after Adam was gone. Andy Mack put out a tweet that said, you know, this is an Ivy League, Great Rune. This was Northern Michigan. Andy put out a tweet saying, you know, if you're a PC guy, you got a PC editor opening. And I immediately responded, okay? But we didn't actually start the conversation until 2 weeks after that, because Andy's response to me went to my junk mail folder. And that's the Subway story that you've heard. It's true. If I would not have been eating lunch alone at Subway, sorting through my junk box on a flip phone before smartphones were ubiquitous. I mean, I think I had one. I don't know if I had maybe a nascent self. I don't know. I don't think I did. I didn't have like an internet connection or anything, so it was like a regular flip phone, I think. Sorting through my my junk box, which is where Andy's email went. 2 weeks after Andy said, you know, he was interested in hearing more about me, I got the actual email. It was in my junk folder, and I was eating a cold cut combo footlong by myself in a crappy Subway in northern Michigan that had about 2 seats. Okay? I always got the Italian dressing on there. It's really good. Italian dressing's really good. For some reason, I thought you went to Notre Dame. No, I did not. Charlie Weiss and, you know, those guys were big rivals of us at Michigan State. Always a good game. I went to Michigan State University, graduated with a degree in journalism. But I bounced around a little bit. You know, I took some other coursework while I was deciding on my major. I was a business major for a while and an English major for a while as well. You thought I went to Juilliard? I did. I trained with, yeah, I did not. My music acumen is sorely lacking. The window to the wall. I don't know why you know that, Great Rune. Interesting that you do. Strange, actually. But, in any case. Because you know my friends, apparently. Which one do you know that would know that story? That's sort of a deep cut. I do wonder whose circles you could be. I mean, it's a small world. In any case, let us begin here. This is, I have here You and Kato? I haven't talked to Kato since he left. He's doing well. He and a lot of other like GI people that haven't told you where they are doing quite well. They're still in games, but they live secretive presences. The nature of their work. So once I found out that we were going to be doing this thing, basically, I shot this to Andy, and I'm going to go through the actual email that I sent Andy here once we connected after the junk mail hiccup. Why Andy's Game Informer email address went to my junk mail, I'll never know. I don't think any of us have the answer to that, but Google stuffed it away for me to find, like a squirrel for the winter, and it showed up, and luckily they were still scrambling to find somebody 2 weeks later. And in fact, there's more to this story because I didn't come on board till much later because I was working on a big project at the school. So, here we go. I'm sure this is ancient words, so I'm probably not as articulate as I am today, but let's see what I shot Andy here at 2:52 p.m. on what would probably have been a Saturday or something. All right. It says, hello, Andy. Actually, it says, hi, Andy. I want to give you the exact language here. Let's get right down to the pitch, since I know you're reading through hundreds of these. PC gaming has been my specialty area for years, and I'd like to think I have a considerable network of industry contacts to draw from for whatever I'm working on, from MOBAs to MMORPGs to indie horror FPS titles. Very specific. In a lot of cases, I skip PR completely and go right to the devs. That was true even then. Having a good network as a game journalist is incredibly valuable and important. I also have an extensive background with CCGs, which are now truly heating up as PC/mobile digital offerings. Interviews are never a problem. I get fantastic pull quotes to freshen up a press release or an exclusive. My idea of a fantastic trip is a fully booked E3, GDC, or PAX. Not my idea of a fantastic trip. It is when I'm pitching a game outlet, I suppose. Here's my resume and a few recent links. Feel free to browse through my entire body of work. Link in the signature. I'd love to talk more about the position. Feel free to call or email. Thank you for your time and consideration. What did I link here? I linked 5 articles that I had at Forbes. These are still probably up because Forbes didn't delete my content when I left there. Unlike some other sites, cough, cough. I'm going to go through and I'm going to give you these links to the articles that I actually put in the email right here. I don't think these are probably the best stories, but they were probably recent and showed that I went to shows and stuff. Important for this. Here are the 5 articles I linked directly in the body of this message. I'm extremely salty about that, Barry. I feel like it was an affront to history what has been done in that regard. There's a lot of historical citation, historical value, even if you think, it's... I am very upset about that. Anyway, there's one of them. S2 Games talks Strife. Strife was going to be sort of a new MOBA contender back then. Here's another one. Also linked in here. My Dota 2 review from Forbes. Remember Dota 2? A multiplayer masterpiece. Pretty neat. EverQuest Next. It looks like I pulled out a lot of show coverage here. I think I saw the EverQuest Next team at a show or something. I haven't read through these recently. World of Warcraft. Is World of Warcraft exploring a free-to-play future? That's a question I still ask myself today, honestly. But it was a good question then, and it's still a good question now. And here we go. Here's another one. Riot Games, League of Legends, and the future of esports. These might be paywalled, I don't know. But anyway, these are the ones that I put in the email. Since we're going to be going through the entire thing, and you're getting the full tale today, okay? I'm not going to go through my resume. So here's what Andy hit me back with. Thanks for the resume and the interest in the PC editor position. I've got a few questions for you if you don't have mind taking the time to answer them. Like any team, we're looking for a member to fill blind spots, or if a new member has a blind spot, trying to figure out how we would cover that. Here are some numbered questions to help better understand what you bring to the table. Number 1, what PC game genres do you consider yourself an expert in? Be specific and give examples of titles and series that you enjoy, including platform. In particular, we are interested in your MMO, MOBA, and strategy game experience. Please note, No need to despair if you are lacking in any of these requested genres, but keep in mind we need a solid understanding of what skills you would bring to the Game Informer team. You know, interestingly enough, here's a little interesting backstory. Although I was well connected within game coverage circles at this time, I had never met Andy Mack or Andy Reiner or Matt Bertz. It was really interesting. I don't know how that happened. Seriously, like, I don't know how I went through so many years without meeting any of them, but it did happen. This was like a completely, like, you know, actually blind conversation with Andy about this. Keep in mind, dazzle us with a thorough explanation of what game knowledge and experience you bring. Yeah. Number 2. Do you or don't you consider yourself a PC hardware expert? I think everybody in chat knows the answer to that question. Number 3. Are you interested in relocation to Minneapolis? And if not, what does your location bring to Game Informer? I was living in northern Michigan there, so not too many developers. That would not have done a lot of work by staying there. And number 4, how long have you been a gamer? Tell me about your favorite games. That's always a good one. You actually do want to try to find out that the person that you're talking to actually does know games without just, like, you know. I guess today people probably just go into ChatGPT and just make stuff up, right? That's terrifying. Okay. Here's the answer. Wow, this is I wrote a lot for this. I don't know if I wrote well, but I wrote a lot. Here's the response sent, well, as soon as I got this, right? Hi, Andy. Let's dive right in.
Chad, they just told me that I had to put my phone away. I've just taken it out again.
Thank you for interrupting me.
They actually warned me because I had it out. This is too intense of a ride for you. Oh.
See, look at, they cut off. They cut off all my... I put long clips on that fishing thing and they cut off. It's really annoying me. All right. Hi, Andy. Let's dive right in. I consider myself an expert in the MMORPG, MOBA, strategy, and digital CCG genres. I consider myself skilled but not expert level when it comes to PC FPS. Majority of my gaming portfolio is online play with other players. True. But I still like to play BioShock and Assassin's Creed and other single-player fare, but I'm more at home with titles that demand interaction, cooperation, and competition. Damn. You know, I was not very verbose back then. It was a long time ago. As far as MMORPGs go, and I think this is where I won him over. I should actually, you know, I could just ask him today. But yeah, Andy's old school MMO, I didn't know anything about that, the fact that he was, you know, an old school EverQuest player when I wrote this. The alliteration is in every single one of my reviews, pretentious one. Anyway, as far as MMORPGs go, my experiences there started off with the original EverQuest and spiraled off in a dark age of Camelot and, of course, World of Warcraft. My World of Warcraft experience began at the core level. Lots of raiding, guild management, and a server first under our belts. All true. It became increasingly more casual as the game began to accommodate more casual playstyles. Across the way, I've typically been part of a raiding guild, though I haven't had the time or desire to go back into guild leadership. Everything's true. Inmax does a good deep dive on EverQuest with who? None of those folks were back in those days, and up to my knowledge. I'd love to watch that one. Raid and endgame content is the sort of thing that interests me in MMORPGs, and I love to see developments like WoW's LFD become the standard. Well, boy, I don't know if I regret those words today. But that's what I said anyway at the time. I think at that point, I think looking for Dungeon Group and then that kind of thing was more enjoyed, I suppose. My current titles of focus in this area are Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Remember that one? World of Warcraft, WildStar, Eve, Camelot Unchained. To my knowledge, still hasn't come out. Neverwinter, EverQuest Next, and Rift. You know what? I miss Rift. Rift was pretty cool. I think it still exists, though. I think it might be under new ownership. Not sure. While these are the areas of specific focus, I'm constantly keeping an eye on other titles and dipping into them from time to time. Currently experimenting with things like Firefall and World of Tanks. Both of those games were actually relevant when I sent this email. I mean, Tanks is still relevant today. Obviously, Firefall never came out, but it was at 4 PAXs in a row back in those days, so it was certainly making waves on press coverage anyway. While the genre is constantly shifting towards free-to-play models, I'm waiting to see what the big breakout industry trendsetter is to show up that does free-to-play right in the West. Speaking of free-to-play, that brings us nicely to MOBAs. I began playing Dota ages and ages ago on the Warcraft 3 client and participated in Cal League for a bit, which is true. I was actually pretty, I played in a league. I played Dota in a league. That's how of a sicko I was. We weren't great, but if memory serves, we did win about half our games. True. I moved over to Heroes of Newerth for a while. True. I switched over to League of Legends when it arrived as my main MOBA. True. And then back to Dota 2 when it arrived on Steam. I know every character inside and out in Dota 2. True. And 90% of the League of Legends roster. At the time, I think I knew everybody on League. Now I wouldn't be able to do it. I know how to play support, ward, carry on supports when playing with new players. Also, this is all very true. Check out my profile on Dota Buff, which I linked to him. Wow, a Dota Buff profile. I forgot that. That said, I'm certainly touching upon and investigating newcomers in the space, as I see many devs are now experimenting with the genre. Feel comfortable playing Smite, Prime World, Infinite Crisis, Dawngate, and Strife. Of those, I think only one of those games remains. That's Smite. All titles currently in my coverage basket. Here I ask Andy about the designation of strategy. I'm not sure about the current designation of strategy, as the great PC strategy titles of yesteryear have transitioned from the days of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 to extremely niche 4X experiences, or hyper-casual titles with an emphasis on approachability that don't have much strategy to them. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'll just throw all RTS and strategy titles in one area here for simplicity's sake. I'm not the StarCraft player I once was, but I can still hold my own at StarCraft 2 or Company of Heroes 2. I haven't been as excited about the Civilization series since 5 arrived, because multiplayer in these strategy titles can take forever. And in truth, my favorite Sid Meier offering is the rather ancient Colonization. That's true. I like that game a lot. In the strategy realm, I have been less interested in current iterations of old series. Like the new Heroes of Might and Magic games are really disappointing outside of the Clash of Heroes title. And more interested in how some games that have been restricted by the physical space are opening up online, especially in the realm of digital trading card games. Hearthstone is going to surprise a lot of people by doing what Blizzard does best, taking the best pieces of existing titles and making them more approachable and fun, which they did. So I guess I was right. Hex, Soulforge, Mojang Scrolls, Might and Magic Dual Champions. I don't think any of these are still around, but these were all titles that I was looking at the time. And it's a Wild West scenario for the digital card game. Everyone wants to push one out. This is before Magic Arena was a thing. Hey, Holly, what's up? I'm reading through a long email here. Enjoy. Number 2. This question, if we want to go back, I just talked for like an hour about question 1. Question 2 was, do I consider myself a hardware expert in terms of PC? And of course, I'd be lying if I would have said yes. So I didn't say that because I don't lie. Number 2, I do not consider myself a hardware expert. Boom. That's an easy answer. Number 3 was the question about relocation, to which I answered relocation is a definite possibility. I was born in St. Paul, and which is true. I actually was born in Minnesota. Of course, my family moved almost immediately, but theoretically, I was born in Minnesota. And then he asked, last question 4. How long have I been a gamer? Tell me about your favorite games. Number 4, the first game I remember really getting into was the original Final Fantasy for NES. A lot of you know. I had access to a Sega Master System and an NES, then a SNES and a Genesis, then a PlayStation. Long nights of Bubble Bobble, GoldenEye, Halo, Shining Force, King's Bounty, Sega CD Night Trap. Oh man, I can't believe I put that on here. This is a job application. Final Fantasy VII, Power Stone, great RPGs in the Dreamcast, arcades and pool halls before the DDR boom, where I would sport cringeworthy Marvel vs. Capcom 2 compositions featuring Sentinel and Spiral. Very relevant to today even. Nothing will ever beat Simpsons or Golden Axe played in their original arcade habitats in the wild. Wow. Around the PS2 era, I moved over to a PC focus. Gaming has always been a major part of my life, and I can't see that ever changing. I'm going to stop this email here, as I am quite certain I could go on like this for ages. If any of this sounds like a good fit, I'd love to chat more. Thank you for your time and consideration. It was actually a really long email. And Andy responded, thanks, be in touch. The process always takes longer than I or anyone else wants it to take, but I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Later that day, I was asked to head over Skype with Andy, Matt, and Andy. And from there, you know, that was the legend. Oh, okay. It looks like we actually had some scheduling issues here. Because I couldn't attend the first time slot that he wanted because I was going to be at, get this, the Live Whale Developers Conference. Live Whale Developers Conference. What the hell was I doing at the Live Whale Developers Conference? I think I was teaching academics about search engine optimization. Comment for Dan. He sent the EverQuest thing in Discord. Excellent, Double Barrel. Well, I'll check it out over the... I'll check it out later. Obviously, I'm not going to do it during the stream. As for Skype, Scully, you know, Skype is leaving, Holly. Skype is actually going away. That is where I had the call originally. I wonder if there is still a Live Whale Developers Conference. What the hell was I doing at that? Interestingly enough, here's where it gets really interesting, chat. When I was down in Texas for the Live Whale Developers Conference, it was an activation for the job that I was currently working at. Can anyone guess who I met and talked to in Texas? This was not my first time meeting this person, but it is somebody that a lot of you know from Game Informer. Just randomly. Really shows the small world nature of this entire reality of ours. It was not K-Star, and it was not Mr. Timothy Turry. Both excellent people. Was it Mark Cuban? No, it was somebody, I gave you a hint. It's somebody that eventually ended up at Game Informer. So I'm going to tell this part of the story as well. It was not Mark Cuban. Anybody else got a guess? It was not Ben Reeves, although Mr. Reeves did sit next to me. You know, we had our desks next to each other for the entirety of our time in the office. John Galt says Shay. It was Shay. Shay was working in Texas. I was down in Texas for that conference to teach academia about the internet, and we got a pizza. And guess what? Okay, so I'm down there. We had worked at Examiner.com together, a really crappy website. We were both freelance journalists that knew each other, right? We had met before at like E3 and stuff like that, because we had worked at the same outlet. So I get to dinner with Mr. Shea. We're having a pizza, an Austin pizza, okay? Austin has pretty good pizza for Texas. And he tells me, you know what? I just applied for this amazing job. I'm like, oh yeah, where at? He's like, Game Informer. I'm like, oh shit. Because that's literally the job that I had just accepted. And I was putting this job that I was currently working at behind me at that point, you know? Nobody knew it yet though, but because I had just accepted the offer and everything like that. I was like, wow, this kind of sucks. But at the same time, you know, Shay's awesome. So I was like, you know what? I actually, you know, I'm grabbing that job. So, but eventually, a year later, we did bring Shay on board. So it worked out for everybody, right? It's just fascinating to me that that's part of the story arc, right? I was down in... Was it even... I think it was Austin. Yeah, I think it was like University of University... Was it No, it could have been University... I don't know. It was some university down there. We ended up, you know, I ended up teaching a lot of people about the internet. As we do, you know, I had making cool decks and everything showcase to these people. And then I went home and quit and went to Game Informer. and that's the story. I didn't prevent Shay from working at GI. In fact, when he came up Here's a little extra. When he came up, I was definitely really happy to see that he was applying for whatever. I forget the exact role. But he was in competition with 2 others, and I was just like, Shay's the best. And that's it. So I didn't prevent Shay from working at GI. I actually advocated for him to work at GI. I just want. Anyway, that is the Subway story, folks. All because I decided to delete my junk mail folder while consuming a foot-long Asiago cheese bread cold cut combo with Italian dressing, salt, pepper, banana peppers, jalapenos. No, and I forget what else was on. But that's the tale. All right. Now we'll play a little marbles. There's going to be Call